All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Best Self Blueprint. So, as you all know, the mission of this podcast is to bring on people who I believe have the knowledge, insights, and experiences as to what it takes to move that dial towards becoming the best version of yourself, whatever that means to you. So, this next guest is someone who has an abundance of knowledge and experience around the practices of mindfulness, meditation, and Reiki. She has never desired following the norm. Instead, she has always pursued life through the lens of helping the world and others while leaning into her curiosity. Her years of devoted study to the mind, health, wellness, and abundance are for sure going to make for an exciting conversation. So, to officially introduce Carissa Cisneros, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I am good. I'm very excited for this conversation. I know we were talking about getting to nerd out a little bit on mindfulness and meditation, but I want you to start by talking about the difference between mindfulness and meditation because those oftentimes get lumped together, especially I know you've got three certifications for mindfulness, and oftentimes
Yeah.
the certificate says mindfulness and meditation coach. So if you could just talk about that.
Okay. So, yeah, they're used like as if they're the same, but they aren't, should not be exchange like interexchanged. So, mindfulness is an extension of meditation, but it's more of a broad spectrum. So, when you just sit down and meditate, that's more of a formal practice. There's a variety of kinds of meditations. There's loving kindness. It kind of depends on what you're looking for, guided, mantra. But mindfulness is more like I could be sitting here right now being mindful with you. I know that I'm talking to you, I'm feeling the chair beneath me, I'm feeling like the cool air. It's more of like a very external experience that you are aware of moment to moment. Whereas when you meditate, it's more like I'm focused on a bottle, like your water bottle, and you just constantly bring your attention back. So when I was in training, what they used as a simple definition for it was meditation is like a retraining of attention. It's constantly bringing your mind back to a focal point. And mindfulness is more, yeah, just being aware of everything at once.
Yeah, that's something. I mean, if you just look up the definitions of the words, mindfulness in and of itself is just being conscious or aware of something. And so I think the fact that, like what you were talking about with meditation, it is if you were doing mantra meditation, you're focusing on the mantra. If you're doing guided meditation, you're trying to focus on the voice or the words that the person guiding you is saying. So,
Mm-hmm.
like you talked about, it's one very focused point, but being mindful and being present involves, like right now I'm looking at the computer screen, I'm aware of the smile on your face, the color or lack of color of your glasses. They're like clear glasses.
Yeah.
Outside of the computer, I see the books right here. I feel a little chilly because it's winter in Wisconsin, so naturally. And so yeah, I think I just wanted to start by breaking those two apart because I have a feeling we're going to be talking a good amount about each of those throughout the course of our conversation. And for people listening, I just don't want them to like lump those two things together. So
Ever. Yeah. And honestly, that's what a lot of people ask me too. Actually, just the other day, that's a very big question I get all the time when I tell them that this is what I do, and they're like, "Well, I don't understand. I don't understand the difference. I thought they're just the same." And I'm like, mm, "They are. They're an extension of each other, but they aren't exactly the same thing." So.
yeah, absolutely. And then one thing I wanted to get into, because I totally agree, but I don't think people realize this is true. When we were messaging back and forth, you said mindfulness is practiced more than people realize. So if you could explain that a little bit, because I think people will find that interesting.
Yeah. So have you ever been in like the zone of something? Like you're doing something and you're not thinking of anything except the one thing that you're doing. People sometimes do it with like music, a lot of sports, like athletes, when they're in the game or when they're practicing, that is their sole focus. And that in itself is meditation. That's having your attention on one single thing all the time. And whenever it varies, they kind of come back. And that's why, like, people who tell me that they zone out to music all the time and they're like, I can't meditate, I don't know how to meditate. I'm like, well, you're meditating right there. People who cook and like love cooking, get lost in cooking, that's meditation. People who do art, like, you can name a variety of things. Even, I don't want to say a movie, but let's just put it there, like, all of your attention is in one thing. It's not going anywhere else. That's meditation. So, and when I tell people that, they're like, really? You know, I thought it's this mystical experience, and I'm like going into altered state. I'm like, it's really, it's not, it can be that, you know, but it's not this grandiose thing that is unachievable. You do it every day.
Yeah. So because I definitely have experienced those moments of altered state. I mean, once you've been practicing and you diversify your practice and test out different things for a long enough period of time, inevitably you're going to experience that almost like trippy feeling, I guess, to put
Mhm.
it bluntly. But what are, like, for people who have no idea what they're doing, have never even attempted to practice mindfulness or meditation before, what have you found to be a good few like first steps or first things they can do?
Um, I think everyone should generally start off with breathing, and it doesn't have to be a long time. You can just, you know, be aware that you're inhaling and exhaling, and you can do that even for one breath. I tell everyone, like, a single conscious breath is meditation. um, and because that is like what the meditation uses breath as an anchor so much as a focal point, that even if you do it for 1 minute, 10 breaths, one breath, three breaths, I think it's a great way to start out. And and since it's always with you, you can take it anywhere you go. So like if you're like in the car and you're like, oh, I haven't meditated today, and you're like, boom, you're done. You're there. Just build on that.
Well, and I've also found, like, and I'm sure you can attest to this too, breath work is just a good way to recalibrate. So if you're having a stressful day or you're in a stressful situation, having that switch back into your parasympathetic breathing really does a great job of just recentering you, recalibrating your chaotic thought process that's going on, and just allows you to kind of come back into like base level as opposed to being all over the place.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, so outside of, like, let's say someone, because I used to be this way, I'm not anymore, but I used to be this way where they say, oh, well, yeah, that's great. You can sit and breathe and that makes you happy. I can't sit still. I can't meditate. I can't do this. What do you say to those people who need to be moving or doing something?
Well, I mean, meditation has a wide variety, and I don't think every meditation fits everybody the same. So like if somebody wants to move, they can do walking meditation. And that's pretty much just, that's kind of a combination of being mindful as well, of just taking on your experience. You're walking, you're thinking about your feet on the ground, you're taking in everything that you see, feel, smell, and you're just walking, you're still doing your thing. And I think with people like that, mindfulness probably is a little bit more of the way that they should go at first, because you can take it anywhere. People say start off with dishes, start off taking a shower, brushing your teeth, like these little acts that bring you into more awareness. And yeah, I mean, it's the thing I like to tell people. The one thing is that meditation actually isn't easy. It's a simple process, but it's not an easy practice, is what I like to say. And I know that that kind of freaks people out, but it is kind of, coming into awareness is kind of weird, and it's kind of, most of the time we don't do that at all. Um, our minds are everywhere. They are chaotic. So when we actually come to that single, like, present place, people are like, they finally realize that their mind is constantly moving, that they're constantly having thoughts, that they're in, like, their body hurts, you know, they can't sit still. And the thing is, I've been through all of those phases. I've been through all of them. And the but with, again, practice, even just 1 minute, one breath, all of a sudden you're like, you know, it becomes this way of being rather than just this practice in this one moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So there's a lot of good stuff in there. So the first thing I want to touch on, one of the first things you said was there's no like one size fits all when it comes to these practices. It really is based on who you are, your lifestyle, what you enjoy doing, and then just integrate these practices into those things. So again, like if you're someone who can't sit still or has a hard time sitting still, yeah, incorporate mindfulness and meditation practices into going for runs or going for walks, or, you know, like I'm big into fitness, incorporate it into your workouts. You can still practice this stuff while you're moving. Just like I love going way back to the beginning where you talked about like cooking, brushing your
Mm-hmm.
teeth, showering, anything that you're doing as an action, you can turn into a mindfulness practice. And so I love that. The second thing I really want to touch on is the adage you used, it's simple, but it's not easy. And one thing that I heard from a friend of mine, he said, mindfulness and meditation are like mental jujitsu, where if you're new and you're just starting out, I mean, for those of you who don't know, anyone, including myself, who like just starts out learning jujitsu, when you go into live rolling, which is basically like sparring, the new
Mm-hmm.
guys will always try to like go all out and try to pin you every second. And you'll notice as you kind of progress, you learn to get more into the flow of the movements and take it nice and easy and let it be, you know, let it be what it is and just go with what's there. And I think mindfulness and meditation both are exactly like that, where when you're first starting, you're going to want to, you know, go on the attack and like, okay, I need to, you know, stop these negative thoughts and I need to
Mm-hmm.
do everything I can to be at peace. And it's even though
I like
you're, yeah. So even though you're consciously saying, yeah, I need to meditate, yeah, I need to be in the present, your mind isn't used to that. So it's going to start going a little stir crazy. But once you actually, it is practice. The more you practice
Mm-hmm.
something, the better you get. And then the final thing I want to touch on is when you talked about like, it almost is like, this is what I got from what you said, at least. When you go from like that autopilot, you're just doing things because it's routine at this point, to turning it into a mindfulness practice, I would almost equate it to like getting snapped out of hypnosis, where all of a sudden you're like actually aware of every little detail of what's going on. Do you think that's pretty fair to say?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that makes you feel trippy all on its own, right? Because you're like, I exist in this world. Like, oh my God, I feel these things, and becoming aware of that is like, I don't know. I know for me, at least, when it started to happen, it's always kind of brings you in. I mean, it's supposed to bring you into a whole new perception of reality, but it's like, oh wow, this is where like I am most of the time. Am I actually really here? And I don't know. I think it's awesome. I think it's a cool way to live.
Oh, absolutely. So the way I always explain it is like, not only are people often on autopilot, they're they're like in a completely, so I think about it this way. Let me just start over. So most people assume that they're like still driving the car, but they put the cruise control on, when really most people are in a self-driving car at this point and they're just completely checked out. And when you're
Mhm.
able to shift back over to manual, like just the amount of detail that you incorporate back into like what you're experiencing in life is baffling at first. But yeah, it really does shift your perception because it takes your focus off the past and the future and allows you just to be with where you're at and who you are right now. And I think there's something so beautiful about that.
Absolutely. I mean, my I think it brings so much self-awareness, not only to like your external world, but like you learn about yourself. Like I know it brings you on this journey, which is my big thing, which is what I'm really about. It makes you understand yourself so much more. You're like, wow, I do these things. And then it makes you think, okay, this is my routine, this is what I do every day, whatever, that's life. And then when you kind of, once you become mindful of it, you're like, is this really what I want? Is this how I want to do things? Did I just get stuck in that routine? And I think that that brings people into a really beautiful journey. I know, I don't, I mean, I can only speak personally for me and what people have told me, but I know that it's been my mission all my life. And I actually always meditated before I was mindful. And then practicing mindfulness, I was just like, I went into that autopilot, that checking back in, and I was like, wow, this is where my mind's at. Is this really where I want it to be? And everything kind of started shifting from there.
Yeah, because I think of it as like these practices, obviously there's a whole bunch of benefits which we'll probably end up getting into, but at the core of it, I think it really just shines a spotlight on what's actually happening objectively with you in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I like what you were saying, where it's like it's not necessarily that doing this is going to directly just automatically make you a better person, but it's going to make you aware of the person you are. And that in and of itself will show you like, oh, if this isn't who I want to be, awesome. Now I can start thinking about like what to do, like you said, with your habits. Like, should I take some habits out? Should I add some habits in? Should I just shift these a little bit? And I think that's where the real power comes in terms of shining that spotlight.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives you more willpower to the things that you do and do not want.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny when you decide to let go of control and just observe. That's really when you end up mostly in control, because now you're actually seeing things as they truly are.
Yes. Yeah. It's, again, it's kind of, and it's weird. I'm telling everyone, like, it's weird. I mean, and it's funny because there's this group of people that I talked to, and this lady had just told me, she was like, I'm stepping into this new awareness that I haven't been in before. And she's like, and it's kind of, it's weird. Like it's kind of, it kind of makes you feel crazy. And I was like, yeah, it kind of is what it feels like. Or like mind body therapy, when people get back in contact with like their body, they're like, this is a whole new experience I've never had before. And it makes, I don't know, it makes stepping forward a lot different. And it's really beautiful to see in other people. So
Oh yeah, when you see, because like you said, when your awareness and perception start to shift, you're like, okay, this is kind of weird. Like maybe it's just me. But then when you hear so many other people saying that same thing of like, man, it's like someone put like these weird like red colored glasses on and now everything's in a totally different shade. When you hear enough people say that, then you understand like, oh, that's just what this does for you.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now, to shift gears a little bit, I want to talk about, because you and I both, I'm assuming you do based on our conversation, nerd out about neuroplasticity, especially in terms of like the impact of neuroplasticity from the practices we're talking about. If you could just talk on that, go wherever you want with it.
All right, so you want me to like explain what it is and everything?
Yeah,
Or
definitely.
okay, so neuroplasticity is just pretty much saying that your brain is malleable, it's plastic, and it can change. And back in the day, they never thought that your brain could change. They thought that once you get to a certain age, it's set, it's unmovable, you're stuck with it for the rest of your life. But in more recent times, they have learned that, what you practice grows stronger. So if you start playing the guitar, at first you're going to suck at it. And then the more you play, the more you play, the more the connections and neural pathways in your brain connect, and you start getting better. Maybe your motor functions get better. You're able to move your fingers faster while playing the guitar. And that's kind of the same thing with meditation. You know, you're not used to having that income of information of sitting down and bringing your like retraining your attention to a single focal point. But the more you practice it, the more that connection grows and becomes stronger and gets reinforced. That's like why all of our habits now that we do all the time, it's because we've been doing them so long that pathway is a really strong connection. But in meditation, so if you think negative thoughts and then you're trying to change them, neuroplasticity is kind of the way you do that. And in meditation, like if you start thinking about positive feelings and more images, like if you're thinking about forgiveness, compassion, love, those, trying to change your negative emotions to positive ones, creating those new connections through meditation is what builds that. I hope I'm saying all this correctly, but it's building that pathway and connection stronger so that you can come back to it even when you're not meditating. When you're feeling negative, you can also turn it into positive.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And one thing that I've found in that really impacts your neural pathway is gratitude practice, because like, and I just did a video about this, but unfortunately, and I think your morning routine is one of the most important, if not the most important aspect of this. So most people, first thing when they wake up, this is just sitting right there. Your phone is oftentimes what people use for their alarm. And then so when their alarm goes off, they've got their phone, swipe the alarm, and immediately go into their texts, their emails, their social media, and you're automatically put into a reactionary state, as opposed to if you just took 5 minutes. If you have, so at least what I do is my phone is sitting face down. So when the alarm goes off, I click the button, I don't look at it, and I immediately go into 3 things that I'm grateful for, like right then and there. They can be as minuscule or as grandiose as I want, but 3 things. And then I do the same thing before I go to bed, is like 3 things I was grateful for that I experienced that day in particular. And when you train your brain to focus on things you're grateful for, it is going to change your neural pathways to really ingrain the habit of, okay, like, what am I grateful for? What am I thankful for? What did I appreciate about, what I experienced at work or what I experienced with my friends? And it takes away the significance and the focus of complaining and judging and criticizing, and it shifts it. And so I think that's so important.
Absolutely. And like you said, it could be minuscule or grandiose. It doesn't have to be like this big thing. You could be like, hey, I'm grateful for my pillow. Hey, I'm grateful to be sleeping, I don't know, on a bed. Like, or it's like little things, and those little things can become bigger, and then you look like deeper and deeper into things like, oh yeah, you know, I don't know, I'm thankful for this experience. And I love that. I love the exercise that you do, because there's like one that I've read and I've tried before, that's like, what are 3 things like you're thankful for of in your past, 3 things you're grateful for in your present, and like 3 things you'd be grateful for in your future, as if they already happened. And as like you said, if you get into a routine of it, it's like you look at your everyday like that.
Exactly. Yeah. This is like my bread and butter, is the ability to shift something that you view as negative and just not, there are some things that, like, objectively speaking, like, they kind of suck. Like if you like snap your leg, that's just, it's going to hurt. Like there's going to be negative things, but the ability to, within that negative emotion, still find gratitude and still find appreciation, I think is a superpower. Like there is so much good that comes from your experience in this life from being able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And and I think it helps people kind of persevere a little bit in their future. Like maybe you went through something bad and you're like, well, what did I learn out of that? What am I grateful for learning out of that? And it kind of transforms that, maybe something that, like you said, that was bad, into this uh pivotal thing that is actually greater for them in the future.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So one thing I want to dive into, just because you I am so happy to meet someone like you who, like, you told me before we came on and in the emails, like, your life's work is about doing things that will help the world and other people, which I think is, like, if we had more people like that, we would be sitting real pretty. Like, what got you into that mindset? Like, have you always had that, or was there something that happened where you were kind of changed by it, or like, how did you cultivate that as, I want to devote my life to this?
Whew. Okay. I think I know that it was something I kind of wanted all my life. I used to joke, even like even now, I used to always say like I wanted to save the world, and I found like different avenues to try it. But I think what sparked it was was from my own experience of being like, hey, if I can help myself, if I can find ways that help myself, and this is what I've learned, and this is what I've gone through, and what I've read about, what I've practiced, like it can help people too. And so one of the big things I always say is like, if I if if I can save myself, you can too. You don't have to rely on like drugs or these escape routes to feel better. And so I was big, like I am big into fitness. I was big into But I was like really really big into it when I was a kid. I used to get bullied for it, so I like changed it, and or, like and I started learning about the mind. I was always into like meditation and eastern philosophy and spirituality. And then I started learning the science behind it, and I was just like, wow, like this is crazy. This could help so many people. And that's what happened with meditation, particularly. Like I was very big into, like I said, the spirituality portion of it, and I knew how much it helped me. I knew how much like self-reflecting um, and learning about myself pushed me throughout my life and made me reflect on my experiences. And I was just like, I wish I could help people. Like, I wish I could show them this. I had grandiose thoughts of how I was going to help the world, but I was like, I, you know, I can't do it all, right? As much as we all want to, like, I can't do it all. And when I started, or when I decided to be a teacher or try to do my teacher certification and learn science behind it, learn about neuroplasticity, learn about the benefits of meditation, I was like, this is the thing. This is the thing. Combines my loves, and this is the single thing I can try to give to the world, to be like, it only takes a little bit to feel just that little bit better. And that little bit better is worth feeling for anybody in life. And yeah, so now I'm here.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's pretty similar to my situation. Now, I was kind of caught in a pretty negative environment in terms of, like, I was going out partying all the time and doing things no one should really be doing, and I wasn't eating healthy. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't getting quality sleep. I wasn't getting a good quantity of sleep. And I hit this point of, like, there's got to be a better way to feel. And so I did exactly what I now coach other people to do. I started focusing on self-development. I started focusing on fitness. I started focusing on mental health, emotional health, habits, finding out what I'm passionate about and pursuing those things. And that's why I'm really excited to have someone like you on, who has the knowledge and the experience about mindfulness, which is in and of itself a really useful tool. But you also have the passion to make sure that people are aware of it and practice it in a way that's most beneficial to them. And yeah, for anyone who's gotten to this point in the podcast and is listening, take notes, because if you can pursue a life of what Carissa's doing, you're going to be so fulfilled. Just the fact that you get to wake up and spend your time bettering yourself, bettering others, and making a living doing it, hopefully, even if it's just like a side hustle or a passion project, which we've talked about in other episodes. But yeah, I think that's incredible. Now, one thing I wanted to get into, let's see, where is it? Oh, yeah, I'm excited about this. So you talked about there are some like myths around mindfulness and meditation, or like things that people have preconceived. What are a few of those things that you've heard, whether it's from like someone seeking counsel or someone looking to get coached or someone just a friend asking a question where they've mentioned something and you're like, that is not even close to what it actually is?
Okay. Well, we kind of mentioned it before about like they think that it brings them into this altered state, this absolutely non-thought state. And meditation, I feel like the universe itself unfolds to you the way it kind of needs to. And that's the same thing with meditation. Like if you're looking for a mystical experience, it's not just going to happen to you. But when you meditate over time, you find that like weird things happen to you. But if you only want it to reduce stress, it'll only reduce stress. Like, and those are the avenues you take. And so, and the thing with non-thought too is that it's not like you're trying to get into this place where it's absolutely like nothing in your brain, like a blank slate. It's not really what it's not what it's about. You're just trying to, again, retrain your attention on a single thing. And I think people get very lost in its mysticism more than not. And that was kind of one of my goals always when with teaching was bridging a spirituality and scientific approach for people who need and want each of them to be like it's not this mystical thing that everyone thinks it is. It's actually a very science-based practice that everyone's researching now that just helps you feel better. That's another one that I hear all the time. I hear complaints like you said earlier about, oh, I can't meditate, I have so many thoughts. And that's actually, then the funny thing is, well, that's the point of meditating, is that it's so that you can kind of hone in on on your thoughts so that they're not chaotic, that they're not everywhere, so that you're aware of where they are. Have you heard of any that that you laugh at? Like,
Oh, I've heard a few pretty out there ones. One of them was, and these are outliers, so like I'm not going to say these are common things I heard, but one person asked, well, is it like is it like a religion? Is like mindfulness meditation like a religion? No, it's not. It's something anyone from any religion or lack thereof can practice. Another one I've heard is that meditation has to be where you're sitting cross-legged with your arms out like this and, chanting out
that's a
mantras.
common
And
one too.
yeah, so I've heard some pretty out there stuff, but I like what you said about really it's the intention you put into it oftentimes is going to be long term what you get out of it. Obviously, every time you sit down or begin a practice, it'll be a little unique, a little different. But if you're doing it for the sake of stress reduction, yeah, you can do some breath work, figure out box breathing, things like that, and figure out a way to reduce your stress. If you're looking for a way for people who are very spiritual, very religious, to have a connection or communication with God, the universe, whatever you believe in, it's a great way to do that. If you're looking to boost cognitive function, it's a way to do that. So
Mhm.
there's so many different routes you can take. You can kind of dabble in a little bit of each of them if you want. It's like a little like mix and match, if you will. But yeah,
Little
I love that you
toolbox.
brought that up.
The religion thing is a good point because that is one that I have heard. Like they think that it's only for Buddhism, but what I like to tell people is that no matter what you practice in every religion, they have a form of meditation. They just don't call it that, but they do have a form of it. but it is a very it's a very good one, because no, it's for anybody and everybody and anybody and everybody can do it. You don't have to prescribe to anything. You could literally be an atheist and still practice, like, so.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I still have a couple more questions. I always finish up with like a final two. It's my little creative outlet for the finish line. But before we get into that, where can people connect with you, whether they're interested in getting coached on mindfulness, whether they're just curious about your experiences and want to have a back and forth? Where can people connect with you on social media?
Okay, so my tag on Instagram is at meditate on yourself. Just, yeah, meditate on yourself. And uh, that's really the only avenue, social media I have. I have a Facebook, but I don't really use it. So I always answer people on Instagram. So hit me up and I will be there. If you want to have longer conversations, find me and I will send you or I will give you my email address, and then we can talk like Trevor and I have.
Sweet. Very aptly named, by the way. So
Thanks.
that'll be in the show notes for everybody. And I very highly encourage you to reach out to her. Just in the conversations we've had and the research I've done on kind of her background and the amount of time and effort she's put into honing on her craft is remarkable. So make use of that. She is happy to help. Again, it's what her purpose is. That's what her life work is. So if she's anything like me, she would be more than happy for you to reach out and have a conversation.
Yes.
But getting into the final two. So these are two questions I ask at the end of every episode. The first one is, what is the next step for you in becoming your best self?
Well, I know it sounds so lame, but I need to learn how to schedule time out for the things, for my classes, for doing my work, working on my business, all of those things, because I think it would help my mind so much more to help me function better and to help me get to my next place in wanting to help people. I know it sounds very small, but I'm telling you, I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and I'm like, I need to do that, Carissa. I need to do that.
You got it. I'll hold you to it. I'll keep you accountable to that.
Thank you.
And then the last question is less of a question for you and more a chance for you to challenge the audience. So the reason I have the guests on that I have is they know something, or oftentimes multiple things, of what it takes to step into that truest, best version of who you are. So based on your knowledge around mindfulness, meditation, all the things you've learned about health, wellness, the mind, what is one challenge that you have for people listening that when done will either teach them something or teach them a new habit or better their life in some way? You have the power, use it well.
Something to challenge them. I mean, I would say, every time you brush your teeth, just take a moment to really think about it, to have that short mindful practice. And honestly, it's learning about yourself is probably the greatest thing you can ever do for yourself. And it just takes a little bit of presence or wanting, curiosity. I would say more curiosity about your life and about what makes you who you are, that really sparks a greater life in all possible categories. And I guess it's more of a statement, but it's not always easy, but it is rewarding in the most wondrous of ways.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So for the task people can do, it is be present and practice meditation and or mindfulness while you're brushing your teeth. I always let everyone know once they, throw the gauntlet down for the challenge, I will do it. I do that already, but I'll continue to do it. I think it's such a useful practice. I mean, whether you're making your bed, cleaning your room, taking a shower, brushing your teeth, eating, if you can find the wherewithal to be present in those moments and just really like experience it fully, I think you're going to live such a more happy, fulfilling life because you have that emotional attachment to everything that's going on. So I absolutely love that. And I love the curiosity statement as well. You need to have, you need to be curious about like you as a person. One thing I find hilarious is there are a lot of people who know more about the statistics of their favorite sports icon than they know about their own life.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is the case, I am not trying to be mean or rude or anything like that, but you need to switch that. You should know you. You should know your stats and your strengths and your weaknesses. And I absolutely love that. So, Carissa, thank you so much for coming on.
Can I say one thing? Can I say one thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. My If you do decide to practice, if anyone decides to like just try it a little bit, whenever your mind wanders from away from what you're focusing on, instead of getting mad at yourself about it, because that just reinforces that connection, always thank the voice that brought you back. And I feel like that is one of the most important things for people to know when they meditate, is that always thank yourself for coming back to the present thing that you're focusing on.
Ooh, that is a
That's it.
good point. Yeah, drop the mic. All right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you gave me that look because that is very, very important. Yes. Never get mad at yourself for not being perfect at something that you just started practicing. And then once you're practicing long enough, you'll realize that's just part of the practice. It's not like an NBA player makes 100% of the shots he takes. Just like every meditator does not have the perfect experience every single time. So, oh, I'm so happy you said that. So on that note, I want to thank you for taking the time today, for giving all the insights and little tips and tricks that you gave. But more than anything, I want to thank you for being so intentional with your life and your purpose. And again, I just think it's so amazing to meet people who are that devoted to not only optimizing themselves in their life, but trying to help guide other people and inspire other people to do the same thing. I think that's so awesome. So I want to thank you for that. I want
Oh,
to thank
thank
you for
you.
just living the life you live. I think it's incredible.
Oh, so much joy in my heart right now. Gratitude. Thank you. You too, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for everyone who has gotten to this point, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being with me on this journey. Again, as anyone who listens to these knows, I do not claim to have all the answers. That's why this is not a one-man podcast. I bring on guests, but I am a student. I want to make sure I'm learning from every single person I sit down with, and I hope you do the same. So if there's something that you have questions about, comments about, that's why there's a comment section. So comment below, ask us, or reach out to us privately. And if there's someone in your life who is regularly stressed out or just needs some time to themselves, needs to be a little more present in their life, share this video with them. That's what it's all about. We're trying to get, both of us are trying to get this information in front of as many people as humanly possible. So share it with them, whether with the share button or just turning your screen around and showing them. But I think that's all I got. So thank you everybody for listening. Carissa, thank you for coming on, and we
Thank
will
you.
talk to you guys next time.